Hi, this is Ryan from Copy Thrive, and this is the official video for our complete on-page SEO guide. The guide was actually released 2 months ago, and I'm just going back through now and making videos for some of our older guides. So none of the principles have changed. Everything remains the same. So let's get going. So to start, what is on-page optimization? On-page optimization is the on-page portion of SEO, and it's the process of making your website crawlable by search engines and ensuring that your page ranks highly in those search engines. Now, on-page optimization alone is not going to allow you to rank highly in search engines, but a combination of on-page techniques and off-page techniques can have some pretty desirable results in the long term. Lots of things go into on-page optimization, as you can see. It's content, the structure of your URLs, optimization across browsers, devices, load speeds, navigation. Lots of components go into on-page optimization. So throughout this guide, we teach you how to create content for both search engines and users. Now, there once was a time in SEO when people would create content almost solely for the search engines through various techniques like keyword stuffing or randomly generating content, spun content, which you see a lot today still. But it is possible to create content that both search engines and users love. So we'll also go over every best on-page practice, and there's probably more than you think. A lot can be covered. And also how to properly structure your website to ensure that it's easily crawlable and search engine friendly. So before we get going, there are a few things that you need to remember. To start, it's important that you know that on-page SEO is an ongoing process. It's not something that you can do once and then you're done. Every time you create a new article, every time you add a new image, create a new piece of content, you're going to have to optimize that content for the search engines. Now, technically you don't have to do any of it. You don't have to add alt tags to your images, or all of them at least, but it is a best practice to do so. The most important aspect of on-page optimization is your content itself. When you have high quality content, you're much more likely to rank highly in the search engines. Always think of the visitor first. Now that's hard, obviously. By the nature of on-page SEO, you're attempting to rank in the search engines, but keep telling yourself that the search engines, their ultimate goal is to provide the best overall experience to the end user. So by catering to that user, you're actually giving Google and other search engines things that it's actively looking for, which we'll be going over throughout the guide. So we'll start with the bread and butter of on-page optimization, which, in my opinion, is content. Content is the bread and butter of any content-based website. Now, there isn't a lot that needs to be considered when creating content other than to make it valuable. That needs to be your one concern. Value, providing value to the users that are reading your content. Now, the best way for me to create value is to create quality, long, unique content, as you see here in the blog post. By creating long content, I find that I cover the entirety of a subject, which in the end is going to be reviewed well by the search engines. By making sure that I proofread my content and that I'm writing in a consistent voice and tone, that makes my content desirable to the end user. Another thing that needs to be taken into account when creating your content is exactly how long it needs to be. Now, every subject is different. Some subjects you might only be able to write 300 words about. Product, for instance, may only have a few different features that you even need to talk about. But in general, if you're creating an informative article, I try to make sure everything that I write is at least 1,000 words long. Now, that would be the minimum cutoff. I know in the internet marketing industry, everyone seems to talk about 500 words being the minimum, and when outsourcing content, everyone's ordering 500-word articles, but to me, it's just best to go above and beyond the call of duty. Now, the other consideration is what your competition has done. Examine your competition and see what they covered in their article on the same subject, and then examine ways in which you can surpass them and go beyond what they've done by providing more or providing better content. You're winning in the long run, and you'll win with the users, and ultimately you'll win with the search engines. Now, everyone makes a big deal about duplicate content, and here I do have a bullet point that says to be unique. And I want to go over that. Unique content you definitely do have to have on your website in order to rank well in the search engines. But it's not as much of a killer as lots of people seem to think that it is. Duplicate content is everywhere on the web, and believe it or not, it ranks well for a lot of sites. I mean, how many news sites do you see that syndicate articles from the Associated Press? I'm willing to bet there's a ton of them. The same can be said for almost any subject. Plenty of syndicated content out there. In fact, I use content syndication as an actual strategy. Now, there are ways to ensure that your content is viewed as the source in the eyes of the search engines, but by Be Unique, you should be looking to create content that no one else has created. You can use your competition as a basis, but overall, I would attempt to create something that is unique and stands on its own in the long term. Now, here we are to the second consideration for on-page optimization, which I believe is wholly underrated by the general SEO industry, and that's the interlinking of pages. I would take every opportunity you can to interlink pages on your website. Now, a good example of interlinking pages can be found on Wikipedia, where in a single paragraph, let's count these up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 9 interlinked pages from their own website in the first paragraph of that article alone. I would use them as an example to point to for anyone that is looking to learn the basics of on-page optimization. Wikipedia's on-page optimization is absolutely stellar, top to bottom. And they're not shy about interlinking their pages. Makes it easier to crawl for Google. It gives your users a chance to see more pages on your website, lowers your bounce rate, increases their interaction with your website. Whenever you use a phrase, a word, or a product that is relevant to other pages on your website, you should link to it. Now, here, the next piece I want to talk about is using keywords in your page titles. Before creating content, you should have done some keyword research, or at least have an idea of which keywords you'd like to target. You need to use keywords in your page titles. Now, that's your H1 tag. If you're using WordPress, that will be the title of your post. This is the title of my post and is also in the title of the page as a whole. So make sure you're using the keywords that you're targeting in your page titles and in your H1, H2, and H3 tags throughout your text. Having a handful or a dozen different keywords that you're going to target prior to writing your article can help you to find more natural ways to fit those keywords into your article. Next point I want to talk about is including multimedia. And there's all sorts of different types of multimedia that you can include on your web pages and blog posts and really increase their value to the user. Now, this little picture of the waving Einstein here probably doesn't increase the value of this web page. It's just there as an example. But it does make it more interesting to the end user. So even if your multimedia doesn't provide value, it can still make the page more interesting to the person that's reading it. Some common types of multimedia that might be included in a blog post, of course, are images, GIFs, memes, infographics, videos like this one that will be included on this page here soon, and creating your own images. If you have a piece of data in your blog post or some stats, you can visualize those stats. You can add graphs, you can add an analysis of that data and actually increase the value of your post as a whole. It's important to keep in mind that some of your readers are not going to be the type that like to sit down and read every little word. Sometimes it's best to give them a visualization. Most of your readers won't even finish your post if it's a long post. Very few of your readers will read every word. And as far as creating simple videos, the software I'm using right now actually to create this video is the one I've linked to here, titled Camtasia. And that is a screen capture program allowing you to capture your screen and record audio over it just as I'm doing here. It's very simple. Anyone can do it. And I would recommend it highly. Now, breaking down further into that content, we're going to look at keyword density. Keyword density definitely plays a key role in on-page optimization these days. Now, keyword density refers to the keyword, how often the keywords that you're targeting show up throughout the article. Now, it used to be a good idea for websites to have a high keyword density, and this was often achieved through keyword stuffing. This is where websites would stuff keywords unnaturally into their content, either in the middle of the content or at the bottom or top, to increase that page's relevancy for those keywords. Now, in an attempt to make sure they offer the best experience to their users, Google has caught on to this, obviously, and pretty much nixed it for the most part. You will still see it, especially on local websites that are attempting to target different cities, but for the most part, keyword stuffing is a practice of the past. Most people recommend a keyword density, at least for your main keyword, of 3 to 5% throughout the article. Now, I don't pay that much attention to keyword density because I'm writing naturally, and I'm writing these posts in a natural way, so my keyword density ends up falling within an acceptable range naturally. Now, if you're handcrafting your articles specifically to rank in the search engines and ignoring the user experience, then yeah, you might want to find different ways to include keywords throughout the content. Generally, I would say if you're writing the articles yourself, they're going to come through in a natural way. Just don't overuse the keyword. Use different variations of the keyword. Use other keywords in place of it where applicable, and you should be fine. When I mention other keywords, these are often referred to as LSI keywords or latent semantic indexing. Now, LSI content was actually a huge deal just a couple of years ago, and even today is sold on some of the forum marketplaces. It refers to keywords that are related to the main keyword. So, as I outline here, if your main keyword is internet marketing, some keywords that would be a part of the latent semantic indexing system would include email marketing software, email marketing service, autoresponder email marketing, and list building. These are keywords that often show up in conjunction with each other, and over time Google has learned to associate these keywords with one another. So, throughout your articles, you want to make sure that you're including related keywords. Now, down here, where it points to the LSI keywords in this image, this is actually a really good source for finding LSI keywords. If you make a search for your keyword on Google, and then you look at the searches related to that keyword, you'll actually find some pretty good ideas of keywords to include throughout your article to increase the relevancy. Now, another aspect of on-page optimization is the social aspect, and you'll hear people talk this up throughout the SEO industry all the time. As I say in the guide, I do think it's overhyped. When you're building a brand, yeah, of course you want your Facebook page, Twitter page, LinkedIn, Google+. You want people to connect with those social networks because it's just another form of subscribing. As far as influencing your rankings, I don't believe it has a big effect. Here I want to talk about outbound links. Now, with on-page SEO, outbound links do play a very important role because with all of the link spam that has gone on over the last decade, Google looks at outbound links closely to determine if your website is being used as some sort of link farm and linking out to other websites unnaturally, and B, as a way to pass authority from one website to another. Generally, I tend to use the natural method when I find a website is relevant to what I'm offering. I link to it. Simple as that. If I'm linking to a large number of websites, I make sure some of those links are no-follow. And no-follow refers to the Google bot not following that link or not counting that link as a vote, as a backlink that affects the search engine rankings. Now, there is some debate as to whether no-follow actually has any effect or not. I believe it does, but that's just through experience. If you're linking out to a large number of sites on a single page, it might actually be in your best interest to make them no-follow so it doesn't appear to be a link farm or have you get unjustly penalized by Google. Now on to making sure that your content is linkable. This is kind of a vague way to say this, but you want to make sure that your content entices others to link to it. Now, I believe that's done by just creating the highest quality content and sharing that with anyone you can. If you create high quality content, people are going to want to link to it. Let's say there's a Twitter user and he has 30,000 followers. Well, he didn't get those 30,000 followers by being boring and updating you about his day-to-day life, probably. No, he got that many followers by being entertaining and sharing valuable things with the people that follow him. And I think that translates directly to your content. If your content is valuable, people will be more likely to share it. So it all comes back to creating new content and, as you can see here, adding new content consistently. Google wants to direct their users to active websites. Now, not every website needs to be active. If you have a fan page for the movie Liar Liar, for instance, the movie came out decades ago. There's not a whole lot to update about the movie, and your pages are still relevant to people that search for that movie. But if your website is related to an industry in any way, it's always in your best interest, even as your site becomes successful in the search engines, to ensure that you're consistently adding new content to your website and updating. Most sites today do that in the form of a blog, but it doesn't have to be done in the form of a blog. You can be adding infographics, videos, altering and editing old content, really anything to show Google that the website is being maintained and is still active. And the last part here about content, image alt tags. Simply adding an alt tag gives your website text to display should it not be able to load the image itself. This is also great for blind users who receive the text from the web page through audio, and it tells them what else is on the page. It's not a huge deal, but definitely should be something that you consider. Now, here we go on to site structure and technical aspects. It's important to remember that content isn't the only thing to worry about when it comes to on-page optimization, although it is probably the most important thing. There's a lot of little structural and technical things that you can do to make your website more appealing to the search engines. The most basic is SEO-friendly URLs, and this can be done by setting your permalinks in WordPress, or if you're coding it by hand, you can name your pages appropriately. if you look at the examples I give here, this URL here is certainly not something that would be easily memorized. It's not really discernible what that page is about. Just looking at that HTML file there at the end, I would assume it's a news website, but really I have no idea. Now, by using keywords in your URLs, you're giving Google and the users an idea of what the page is about and what it is relevant for. I would recommend doing this with any page on your website, and if you look around at the URLs here on copythrive.com, you'll see that we like to keep things short and to the point and easily memorized or easily discernible what the page is about. Second point I want to make about site structure is navigation, and navigation is hugely important for on-page search engine optimization. You need your navigation to be easy to see and make sure it takes users to the appropriate pages. Keep things simple. In the end, navigation is for the end user. Google bots can't physically see your navigation. They can just make sure it's present on the page, linked through text, and in a location that is clearly visible to all users. But in the end, it's your users who will be using it. So you want to make sure to test your navigation out, ask people what they think about it, see if there's any ways you can improve it. Try to make sure almost any page on your website is accessible within 3 clicks maximum. Most main pages should be accessible within 2. Site speed is another thing that needs to be taken into consideration. Now, you have to remember that Google wants to provide the best possible experience to their users. So, knowing that users have a short attention span, they want websites that get users to the content as quickly as possible. Site speed also shows that they've invested in a decent hosting package or server and that they are serious about providing an excellent experience. Here in the guide, I list a couple of tools that you can use to check your website speed, and they'll recommend some improvements for you should you need improvements. The next thing that needs to be taken into consideration is the bounce rate of your website. The bounce rate is defined by users coming to your website and then quickly leaving your website. This is considered a bounce. Now, depending on the industry, bounce rates could be all over the place. It could be 25%, it could be 75%. Generally, you want to have as low of a bounce rate as possible. Google will be comparing your bounce rate for the keyword that you rank for to the other sites that rank for that same keyword when figuring out where to rank you. If you rank number 5 and you have a bounce rate of 50%, but the website ranked number 8 has a bounce rate of 25%, that likely means in the eyes of Google that they're more relevant for the keyword and should be ranked higher. Then they might bump them up a few ranks and see if that changes anything. Now, I wouldn't recommend trying to artificially lower your bounce rate. I don't think that helps anyone, through pop-ups or finding tricky ways to keep your users on the page. That doesn't provide a good user experience and can actually hurt you quite a bit despite lowering your bounce rate in search engine ranking. There's a lot of strategies you can use. Again, I think the best strategy to keep them on the page is to provide great content and provide it at the very top of the page. By adding a video, by adding an interesting image, by listing statistics, or having a bulleted list at the top of the page, you give them something that immediately looks important, and they may stick around and read it, especially if it is what they're looking for after arriving on your web page through the search engines. Other things you want to take into consideration, one is bot accessibility. Your website shouldn't have any problem accepting bots unless you have edited your robots.txt file. You may want to block some bots, but certainly not Google bots. Now, this sitemaps is very important for on-page optimization. Essentially, a sitemap is a list of the pages on your website that Google can quickly access. There are a number of plugins, which I list here on the guide, the Yoast SEO plugin for WordPress includes a sitemap generator. There's lots of standalone sitemap generators if you don't want to use that plugin, and should be able to generate a quality sitemap for you. Additionally, you want to make sure your website loads well across multiple mobile devices. This is almost always done these days through a responsive theme. So, that is the entirety of our on-page SEO guide. Hope you learned some things. That was pretty in-depth, and I think will help a lot of people out to properly optimize their website. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can come to the website, subscribe to our marketing guide. I'll be listing this guide down in the description of this video. Additionally, you can follow me on Twitter or any of the other social networks. I'll be listing those in the description as well. So, for those of you that have stuck around throughout the entire video, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to be making a lot more videos for our website and standalone guides, so feel free to stop by and subscribe. All right.